It is my favorite kind of podcasting day. We are here live with the one and only Wes Wages.
Yes.
Which, if you are newer to our podcast, Wes is my incredible husband of 15 years. And we went through the Connection Codes journey together in 2020, where it completely changed our life. And we were not in a bad place when we went through the Connection Codes training, and it has just changed everything. And there are still some areas that we are trying to break free and find freedom in that I've struggled with. So we are going to dive into that topic today, and that is sexual banter. So Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have helped us a lot in our sexual journey in finding freedom and finding connection. Wes, I'm surprised you weren't like a big...
Well, I don't want to interrupt you because this is like, I want to say so many things, but I don't want to interrupt you. So 100%
that deserved like a big amen.
Changed our life. Thank you guys. I owe you everything.
I owe you everything. But kind of the next layer that is kind of missing still is just the freedom of sexual banter. And that is where we are heading today. We're going to talk about that. So welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tera Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his partner. The word I want to say, we recently had somebody say incredible, not to you, because you're so much more than incredible. Like the word I was thinking is a bad A. Like his woman who has discovered the connection codes. The two of them have created the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Yes. Hello, world.
Hi, friends. So yes, we always try to get Wes pulled into our podcast, and he's usually either out of town or working and a busy man. But today he was here for lunch, and we're like, hey.
Do you want to jump in and talk about sex banter?
Yes.
And, I'm okay with that.
He'll never say no to talking about sex, I'm sure.
Right.
This
so we
true.
picked the right topic to get Wes Wages here today.
Yes.
And I just want to say congratulations, guys. You do such a good job with that intro. And I just think back at the beginning of this podcast when you guys were coming down to Florence and starting this. And now, how many episodes are you?
This is 76.
76 episodes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very,
Congrats.
very exciting. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say congratulations because we just had our 11th grandchild.
Congratulations on that as well. Which
that
correlates
was
with your
in our
76
wheel,
podcast.
So now you guys have to do the wheel. So there we go. Yes. Super excited about grandbaby number 11. Got to witness the miracle of birth at home in the water. So yeah,
That's
was
incredible. I love
11.
that so much.
One day, baby.
Oh, 11 grandkids?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm down for that. Bring me all the grandbabies one day.
She thought you were saying 11 children.
She's like,
No,
I don't think
no,
so.
sir. Yeah, and speaking of babies, now we're going to talk about sex.
Awesome.
How babies are made. So with sexual banter, this is something that Wes and I, you desire to have, you desire to hear. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
People that are watching or listening can't see you. Shake your head.
This is
yes.
lunchtime, so.
Oh, you're drinking your shake.
Yeah. I mean, of course I do. Yeah, I think that's like who doesn't? I mean, maybe there are people that don't. But
Yeah, but for me, I struggle with so much shame. I struggle with so much just like, I don't know what to say. What do you want me to say to you right now?
same. I feel the
And-
same too in doing that with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like as the man, I'm supposed to say more of the, what is the thing that I try to do? Women are like ovens and men are like microwaves, And so like, hey, if you want to have sex tonight, it's got to start early in the day.
You're
So it's
preheating your oven.
Yes, and that's what it was, preheating oven. So sending you little messages like, can't wait to hang out with you tonight. Really miss you. Like, but we don't really, it doesn't go far from that.
Yeah. For me, not at all.
Yeah.
And I actually have a story about this. Can I share the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
gosh.
if you're on our newsletter, then you know that last week our website crashed. I clicked a button, website went down. And that was on a Friday evening. And I was going, after that, I had scheduled to play bunco with girls in my neighborhood. And Wes is the tech person from us anyway. And so he was like, I will figure this out. And he was on the phone with tech support from both our website person and our domain, all of those people, for a couple of hours.
Wow.
So while I was at bunco, I was like, okay, I need to sext this man and like thank him for what he's doing for me right now. So I did. And then I accidentally realized after that I sent it to him and a girl that's a fashion designer that's like sent me a jumpsuit. She's one of the coolest people I have ever met in my life. And now I have accidentally sexted her. And so I'm like, I tried to do the sexual banter thing and it just did not work out.
It was very awkward.
Very awkward.
She didn't I tried to be like, oh, Tera didn't mean to send that to both of us. And like she was like, I don't understand what's going on. I was like,
man.
So
yeah,
it was bad.
Well, but I do just the macro of that, and that's where I always start is because, and I'm not saying do it on purpose, and yes, it's embarrassing, that sort of thing. But the reality is, I don't know who this other woman was, but if she sees that and she's like, oh, okay, so apparently Wes and Tera have something going on there. I don't know that ultimately, and again, I get it, and it would be embarrassing for us too, but I don't know that ultimately, socially, culturally, that it's a lose. And again, I don't know who this person is.
Agreed.
But if she goes, well, dang, that Tera Wages, she's a wild one. Good. I'm glad. And, we've shared, I think we've, maybe not, I'm not sure. But, I mean, Phyllis and I have a sex closet, and it's locked. And, people will ask us, they'll go, well, what if somebody broke in your house and broke into that closet? And, they put stuff on the internet or whatever about us. I mean, would we feel awkward? Would we feel weird? Yes, we would. But ultimately, if the takeaway from it was, whoa, that Phyllis and Glenn are wild, crazy, kinky lovers, okay. And again, I'm not saying that it wouldn't feel awkward, but ultimately, I don't really care because if anything, the message is simply that this older couple is having a blast sexually. Yeah, we are. So ultimately, again, don't break into our house and break into our sex closet. But I'm just saying, worst case scenario, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
Well, this is a conversation that actually comes up in sessions a lot with couples where it's kind of that idea even. So there's different layers, I would say, of sexual banter. And some of it is just that comes up in sessions is like with couples where after they've had a fun, playful night the night before, the next morning, he would just love to hear something about it. And so this is a conversation that the four of us kind of will dissect. And often for the female, it's like, yes, I was wild and crazy last night, but now I feel shame about the wild and crazy from last night.
Yeah.
And so I for sure don't want to talk about it or bring it up. That seems inappropriate.
Yeah.
And, in some ways, it's like breaking it down to where did we get that message that it was inappropriate to talk like that with our spouse? Yeah. And you kind of follow it through. For many of us, it goes way back to how we view sex in general and how it's like not to be talked about. And, always, I mean, I know for me in our early beginnings, it was very much in the dark, under the covers. And I mean, I just could not stand the thought of the lights being on and because I felt so much shame around it.
Yeah.
And that goes back to, growing up at a time and being taught, that basically sex is dirty, sex is wrong. Well, in marriage, it's okay, and so it's like, there's that messaging that we have. And so, and I love the way you even started this podcast talking about freedom. And that is a lot of it. It's the freedom with each other and to know, and we just had a session actually last week with another couple where that idea of he would love more sexual banter but they both go, we really don't know what that would look like, or we don't even know what to say or how to start it. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. Like it's very much, you start where you are at in it, and you use the verbiage and the words that you're already comfortable with. And sometimes it's just an acknowledgement of, I was thinking about you and I was thinking about last night. Well, that alone is just like, dun, dun, dun. Like she just said it. She referenced last night. And it was not any more complicated than that. Yeah. Or to even think, just even the text that would say, man, I've been thinking about you all day and I love that shirt on you. It's just those little like, whoa, what did that mean? Where's this going?
Yeah.
You know, or just that I feel like you're so sexy in that dress. And it doesn't have to be something, I think that's where we complicate it. Yeah. We think you got to get a class or a certification in sexual banter.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think
where do we get that?
Or
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
Something you just said is like, where is that going? You know what I mean? Like in a sexy way.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what Tera and I do, but she's like, where's this going? I have so much fear.
Yeah.
Because she's like, if I text
I have good
him
reason.
This, that means I might be setting myself up for like sex tonight when I don't really know if it's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to feel the right way. I don't know if all the things are going to be in place for that to happen.
Yeah. Because we've had conflict around that.
Totally. So I think you're just like, I'm not going to send anything.
It's just better to not. Because even recently, I've tried to get better about this and being more playful sexually throughout the day or like making comments with each other. But I feel like in my experience, if I do that, then his expectation is for sure we are having sex tonight. And then if I'm just like, no, you've asked me to be more playful, so I'm doing it. But that doesn't mean I want to be for sure guaranteed.
But don't expect to have sex.
But I'm also not saying I want to have sex every single night. But I would like.
But you don't send text messages every single. You send them maybe once a month.
No, but we've gotten more playful at home, not just texting, but we've gotten more playful at home. Like I have definitely gotten more flirtatious with you. And I think that when I'm flirtatious, buddy.
Well, I'm just trying to I want to make it clear. In your mind, you're doing this every single day.
Okay.
And you have the expectation of me to want to have sex with you every single day whenever you do that. But that's just not the case.
Yeah. I think that it does happen more often than not. Because there was recently where I was really flirtatious. And then that night you were super disappointed when I was like, oof, no, I don't want to have sex. And you're like, but you were teasing me.
100%. If I were to tell you like, hey, T, remember that, remember like I'm going to take you shopping tonight and I'm going to let you pick out whatever you want to.
I know, but I'm not saying that to you.
Would you be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if you can cuss on here. Yeah, I'm there. I want to and you'd be thinking about that all day, right?
Yes.
You are not going to let me forget about that. And then at the last minute, if I said, ooh, I know I told you that, but like, can we do that later? You know?
So that goes back to the point of it's just safer for me to not banter sexually at all. Because if I do, then it's a guaranteed the expectation is to have sex. And at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure if on that day we're going to or not.
I'm curious because I hope there are listeners who are going, my gosh, how many core emotions did they just skim over? Because I think there were a bunch. So our dream is that you're actually able to put it in the core emotions in those sentences because it changes the whole dynamic. We haven't done real empirical research in this, but we have certainly observed and taken notes a lot and noticed it with ourselves and then with other couples. So there definitely has to be an underlying, that there has to be sexual interaction, sexual activity, definitely. So I'm not saying that that's the case. But what we've been so fascinated with, and I'll tell the cantaloupe story for those of you who haven't heard it. So this is some time back. I'm in a grocery store. Phyllis is not with me. I'm in the fruit section, and I did not set this up. So I know there's somebody out there judging me. I didn't do it. Someone probably did do it, but it wasn't me. So I see two cantaloupes that are just perfectly sized. They're lined up together, and they have the brown circles in the same position. And I see this. Well, I take a picture of it, and I text it to Phyllis, and I said, "Joy, joy, thinking of you." And very quickly, she responded with a big smiley face and a fire emoji. So I'm standing there in this grocery store surrounded by strangers and cantaloupes, and I'm just intrigued, thinking, I feel sexual connection with her. And we're not doing anything sexual. And we're not going to do anything sexual in the next 10 minutes or hour. And I have no idea. I didn't keep track. We probably didn't do anything sexual that night. So it's not that now we have to do a sexual activity, some sort of sexual interaction because of that banter. And again, there is an underlying, we're very sexually active, but I was intrigued by that. It's like, how can that possibly be sexually connecting? Because we didn't do anything sexual. So I think it becomes psychosexual, that interaction, just the texting back and forth, which again was not extensive. It was just I texted her, she texted me back. And that in and of itself was sexually connecting, which I find fascinating.
You know, I do think it does get back to almost kind of like a separate topic, maybe, of what y'all are talking about, and then actual just sexual banter that happens throughout the day, spontaneously. And I would say Glenn does it more easily than I do, more often than I do. Mm-hmm. But I have learned that if I still face him, that's super painful and disconnecting.
Yeah.
And if I respond playfully, I know that at this point, that does not mean anything, because I know he's going to express to me sexual joy or sexual loneliness if he's actually wanting sexual activity with me. And so the banter is not a road to sexual activity. It's just sexual banter that keeps us connected. And it's like there's no one else on the planet I would ever have that with, conversation wise. And
well, obviously Tera does. She just texts to random people.
Well,
so that's different.
Okay,
so
okay,
don't follow
okay.
Tera's example there.
Okay.
Just
Be
wanted to
careful
clarify
who
that.
You
you're
said it was
sending
okay,
your
Glenn.
text
I'm
messages
saying
to.
worst case scenario,
Be
but we're not
careful.
trying to do worst case scenario.
Yeah. But, you know, I think that for the two of you, just to kind of understand, like, I mean, there's so many things in a way that we can do this about. Like, we can talk about all the movies, but that doesn't mean we're going to the movies tonight, or that doesn't mean we're going to watch a movie tonight. It's just that we were thinking about the movies, and so we were bantering over movies, or, you know, restaurants or coffee shops or whatever it might be. But that doesn't mean that is a road that's going to lead us right to that coffee shop or that movie. And so to kind of go, oh, so sexual banter is just a conversation that we're not having with other people. We're having it only with each other. And it's like this private conversation that's super playful. And it's the, and it's so valuable. Like, I think that's part of it, is just understanding there is just value in it. And, you know, we give a lot of examples on this podcast as far as, you know, Glenn has a lot of hobbies between, you know, wine and poker and play and koi fish and all the things, which he can talk to me about endlessly.
Phyllis, you're a hobby as well, right?
Oh, yes. I'm okay with that hobby. Those are the
That
other
was sexual
hobbies.
banter, but in no way I wasn't trying to.
Okay.
Am I getting this?
I don't know, Wes. Hang on. But, you know, I
That
do
was a
it.
kindergarten level.
Wow.
You'll get there.
Like, he'll talk to me about, like, he'll be on, you know, like the koi. He can say so much about koi. And I don't know that I ever begin a conversation about koi. But I'm a great listener, and I don't resist his interest in it, and I partner with him in it, but it's not something that we go back and forth on. As far as sexual banter, to me, there's a very different level of that. And because this is the only relationship where we share in that.
Right.
You know, when it comes to some of his other hobbies, he has a lot of friends who will text him and talk that stuff, or will, you know, hey, let's go, you know, rescue some koi or whatever.
Koi fishing.
Koi fishing, yeah, with a net. And, you know, it's like there's a lot of other those, but the sexual banter is just the two of us. And, you know, I would say it goes against everything I was raised in. So it's never been something that I just one day was like, oh, yeah, this is just who I am. It's more that I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be comfortable with that because of how valuable it was to you. And I think that it's so connecting, but it doesn't necessarily lead to the sexual activity at the end of the day because of the fact that we're having sexual banter.
Yeah, and I wish I knew how to even explain that, because, I mean, Tera, I get what you're saying, that, and we hear that a lot, typically more from females than males, but that, there is fear for you that, oh my gosh, if I engage in this, then that means, whatever, in the next 2 hours or something. And I don't know a formula for that. And, I'm a good bit older. We're older than the two of you. So I don't know if that's an ingredient in it or not. I would say I'm as horny as ever, so I don't think it's just that. But I'm just fascinated because, again, I don't have a great equation there. But I'm just fascinated that I don't feel the desperation at all. And Phyllis hasn't rejected me sexually. I have no idea. We were talking about that the other day. I mean, it's surely been at least a decade and a half, maybe even more. I don't know. So, and even when there's fear from
that's
me
awesome.
with that,
Let's just take a little time out right there. Right. Like, you just brushed over that. I felt like there was a lot of core emotion you didn't express.
It took us a long time to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, we were the slow kids in the group, and we were, and again, we didn't write it on a calendar. I wish we had known, the future, because we could have written and kept track of all that stuff. But I'm sure it's been at least 15 years, and again, maybe 20. I have no idea. So there is that as well. But I don't think this would be great for you to say live on air, because I don't think you ever feel like, oh crap, I'm stuck. I'm going to have to put out or something to that effect.
Well, very true. But I was also thinking, like, what changed for us, like in the idea of the rejection, what changed for us is using the language of the core emotion. And you just saying, oh, I'm feeling a lot of sexual joy. And me being able to ooh that, follow your energy and be playful with it. Like, oh yeah, what's happening with that joy? Right. And then you talk about it, and it's amazing how it physically brings it down to where in that moment we're connecting. Not sexually, but yet sexually, but not because we're not. Yeah. It's like this crazy. That's part of the research that you're saying, that it's like, wow, that almost doesn't even make sense, that just getting to talk to you and banter and be playful, the craving went down. And then, there's times like he'll say, man, I'm just feeling really sexually lonely. It's been a while, or, you've been busy. And I'm like, oh yeah, babe, I get that. I hear that. So what would be the sexual joy in that? And then it's like we can just talk about it, even if that means there's no activity because of scheduling or the other things that are happening, but he feels no rejection in that.
Right. And that's the part that fascinates me, is that even when she gets to the fourth phrase, she says, what do you need? And I tell her, that doesn't mean we're going to do anything sexual in the next 10 minutes or the next hour, even that evening. And again, I don't know how to quantify that, even to delineate it. But it's like, it's fine. And I don't feel any rejection, zero rejection, because I know that we're one, she's my one unique sexual friend, I'm hers, and we're going to do that thing, whatever that joy point was for me. It just may not be right now. And again, it's bizarre to me, because I would not have thought this 20 years ago. I don't even care. There's no panic in it for me at all.
But, it's interesting. I'm thinking about just the overall power of processing the emotion, and how, because you've shared in other podcasts about the popcorn, like you processing the joy of eating movie popcorn, actually just saying it out loud, processing it. You've not had movie popcorn since. And I think, wow, so there's a craving. So you think about that with sexually, there's a craving, there's almost like I can't wait. And it becomes all you can think about. But if you process, it brings it down to a different level. And that's true, not just with popcorn, not just with sex. I mean, you think about so many things, even fear. When we process, it's like we go, wait a minute, take a deep breath. Like I'm getting it. Like I'm tuning into myself. I'm following my own energy about this fear that I'm experiencing. I've shared it with someone else. and it's like the experience can totally shift even in that moment. So it makes sense that the sexual banter actually keeps it from
Right.
being like, I don't think you're ever starving sexually or ever craving it so bad you can't think about anything else, because we're always, it's like an open door of just banter. And I just
were you guys
wonder-
like that when you had your kids at a young age?
Well, no, because
Because the fact that y'all are,
that's when things were, that was pre-connection codes, and that's during our rough years.
Yeah.
And we did have sex dates. I
Disconnection.
mean, we've been having sex dates over 25 years.
True.
So,
yeah.
but we were just, I mean, it was a shot in the dark. We're just trying to figure out something. Because again, we didn't have start dates, on July the 4th of this year. So, even when we started sex dates, they were often difficult and awkward and painful, and they were a struggle. But I did want to clarify that one point, because there's way too many intelligent people listening to this podcast. I know there were a bunch of them that said, wait, so if I process through my sexual joy, or if he processes through his sexual joy, then we'll never have sex again. That's not the parallel to the whole popcorn
that's
story.
true.
yeah, it's so
I
much
know
fear.
there's
Thank you.
Yeah, I know there's
Thank
people
you.
out there who's just like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's not the
Thank
point.
you.
at all.
Yeah.
The
Good.
movie popcorn is not good for you. So that was
Right.
the point of
Right.
that
That's
story.
the,
Yes.
Sex is good for you.
Exactly.
yes.
Can you say something?
Well, I have something, but you can go first.
Well, I guess I feel sad in you guys saying that stuff too, because I'm like, but I want to, I want to play around, just through conversation, but then actually there be fulfillment as well.
That night.
But I think the difference is that it's so, I mean, we have very regular sex, but we don't like banter like this. And so maybe that's just something we try. Do you know what I mean? And if we were to banter more, then maybe I wouldn't every single time want to have sex in that next 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but let me emphasize too, and we haven't talked about this in a bit, so I don't even know exactly what's happening for the two of you, but there was such a groundwork or an undergirding for us of our sex dates. When our sex dates became, number one, regular, and number two, experimental, that changed everything for me, and for I think for us as well, but certainly for me. And again, we're involved sexually other times besides our sex date, but there are weeks that go by where we're only involved sexually in our sex date, and I don't even notice it, because our sex dates are so extensive. The time that we devote to it, the playfulness we devote to it, certainly the experience, the fourth X of sex dates. Explore, experiment, expand the menu, expand the repertoire, and the experience. So it's so extensive that so we're always either reminiscing or fantasizing about a sex date. We're always just 3 days from a sex date. And again, we're involved more than that, but there are times that we're not, and I don't even notice. And I literally,
Is the sex date once a week or every 3 days?
So they have 3 days after the sex date to reminisce, and 3 days.
So I'm still
before.
recovering from the last sex date. And then by the time I recover and I finish reminiscing about that one, I'm fantasizing about the next one. So I'm always either 3 days after or 3 days before a sex date, technically 3.5 days. Okay, then you have to subtract the hours of the sex date. So it's 3 days, and I don't know. Yes, you figure it
Yeah,
out.
totally.
But it's true. It makes a big difference.
Can I ask you a question? This is kind of like man to man here. Is 3 days like a typical is it called refractory period? I would say that's common for me. Of
Is it
like
3 days.
Right.
Yeah, just like, okay, we had sex, and about 3 days later, it's coming back up,
You want some more
Right.
sex.
Well, and again, every human is unique, but 36 hours is about the, I can't think of the word now. You messed me up.
Sorry.
But that's not really refraction.
Right.
But just whenever it starts building again. So
Right.
36 hours, and that doesn't mean you couldn't be involved 2 hours later, but 36 hours is when it just starts organically, naturally building for you, which could, and again, every human is unique, but it could be that within about the 3 days from the last time, you're starting to feel that.
I'm about 36 hours and 3 minutes.
Okay.
Just right there. So, but I mean, that's just, early in our marriage, I was like, how often do people have sex? Like we don't know these questions, you know what I mean? Like, because of course you see TV and it's like, oh, we should have this sex every day. You know what I mean? Or you hear from some marriages like, oh, we have sex once a month, like, well, what's normal here? I know every few days it's like.
But let me tell you something, and I have a lot of experience in this, a lot of seat hours. I've sat with tons of couples who are involved sexually so frequently it would shock you, and they do not have sexual connection at all. And literally, the record. I hope this couple's not on the listening to the podcast. But the record, they said the first year they're married, they were involved sexually 10 times a day, which I don't even understand how you do that and work a job, but whatever.
So sorry.
And it was horrible. And actually, after a year, the wife finally said, "Okay, I quit. I can't live with you like this." So it was a disaster. It's not. So that's just important that people know that. If you'll just do him X number of times a day, he'll be happy. No, and again, I don't have empirical evidence on this. I would say that's rarely ever the case. That the more there is no equation that I know of at all to say, well, if he's involved sexually, a few orgasms, pick a number 3 times a day, 10 times a week, then he'll be fine. Because it's not sexual connection; it's just sexual activity, and those are 2 completely different things.
Yeah. I do hear, though, with what you're saying, Wes, that if the banter was more of a lifestyle, it's like an ongoing conversation and it didn't feel like this like surprise moment here and there, that it would not feel as much like, oh, okay, she's trying to get in my pants tonight. It's just this like way of life for us that we're always flirting. We're always doing the winky eye situation. I'm willing to try it.
Well, and I'm
going to report back to y'all, though.
Yeah, there's going to have to ramp up, right? Because if we were to start this tomorrow,
think about the ramp up.
Then I'm like, okay, every single time. But then if it continues on, then I think
by episode 80, I'll be able to come back.
There you go.
And say to our audience, okay, the ramp up is over.
I sexted Wes and he didn't have sex with me that night.
Well, you didn't I shouldn't say ask, because you can ask me to have sex whenever you want to, but. Yeah.
Well, and I emphasize that every human has a right of request. We do not have the right of demand. And the vast for most couples, and again, typically it's going to be the male, but number one, they're sideways. And number 2, he's demanding. So, and by sideways, what we mean is he walks in the room, he goes, so babe, you want to do it? And she goes, no. And she answered the question that he asked, but the question is a lie.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with him asking if she wanted to do it. So it's completely inauthentic, disingenuous. The authentic self would say, I am feeling so much joy. And if they're connection coded, she's going to go, oh, what's happening with joy? What am I missing? And he goes, oh, it's sexual joy. She goes, oh, what's happening with that? What am I missing there? And he's going to tell her that, oh my gosh, I couldn't get you out of my mind today. I was just fantasizing about you. I love you. I love your body. I love touching you. I love feeling you. It's just, I got chills all day long thinking about you. And that is very much descriptive of what happens for us. And again, Phyllis just gently grins at me. And then she'll do the 4th phrase. She goes, what do you need? I'm like, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad that you asked.
Yeah. Thanks for describing our night last night, Glenn. It's exactly what happened, to be honest with you. But I just said, hey, you want to have sex? She's like, no. Versus, I mean, and I'm not going to demand that, obviously, right? But I could have totally gone around that and said, hey, I'm just having a lot of sexual joy right now. Yep. Describing the joy.
I knew you were too. I knew it. I know the moment that it switched, I could feel it, and
I mean,
I had fear.
This connection goes 101, because what the research shows is when Wes says, I feel joy, it activates joy in Tera's brain. And
it activated fear in the moment of her.
You did not. So you said, I feel joy?
No.
Well, correct. I did not do that.
That's my point. I want you to cheat. And don't even tell Tera I said this part. But you can cheat. If you say, I'm really horny, I want to have sex. There's no horny region of Tera's brain. So that doesn't activate horniness.
I can vouch for that. There is not.
Well, that's true for everybody. But when you say to her, I feel joy, and it's true for all the core emotions, when you say I feel joy, and the research on this is pretty emphatic that when Wes, you can, even a total stranger, you go up to a stranger, you go, I'm feeling a lot of fear. You just activated fear in their brain. It becomes a shared human experience, and they connect with you, and they go, oh my gosh, what's happening? And they're not connection coders. They don't know you. They don't, but they just, it's automatic. We just experience. And you think about, one of my favorite scenes, which is horrible. Everybody will judge me in this, but when you see a movie and somebody's getting on a train, and then their loved one is running along the train track, they're going, "I love you, I miss you already." And then they slam into a pole. Yeah. And I love that. It's horrible of me, but I can feel it in my body. Like I'm just like, ooh, wow, and like you break out in the cold sweat. I didn't run into a pole. I don't even know who that is that ran into a pole. It's actually a movie, so it's an actor or a stunt double. How can I possibly feel pain? It's a human coding that we're hardwired that way. That's just what happens. And I think it was Dr. Cohn that did a bunch of research where he would show people injuries. Somebody had a big cut on their arm, and the pain region of that person's brain goes crazy. Yep. What? This is a picture of a stranger's arm. How could you possibly feel pain about that? Well, you just do. It's the human coding. Yeah. So the same is true with all the core emotions. Just tell the girl, babe, I got flooded with joy earlier today. Hopefully she'll do the 3 phrases and go, oh, what happened? What did I miss? It was sexual joy. Oh, what's happening with that? And you just tell her, like, oh, I just couldn't get my mind off of you. I love your body. I love your boobs. I just love touching you. I love it when you get out of the shower. It just lights me up. You're cheating and you're activating joy. It's not the same level that what you're experiencing, but you're activating joy in her brain as well. And you just exponentially increase the odds of her being bonded with you and receptive to sexual activity. And I don't ever want anybody, but I don't ever want a woman to feel pressure like, okay, Grady used the connection code, so now I have to put out. Not at all. But that's just what the research shows, is that it actually activates the other person.
Yeah, that's good.
I got to say, I do that. Often, I say, oh my gosh, I have so much joy. And you wearing that underwear or
you do that.
Just getting out of the shower or all these things, or just how beautiful you are. Typically,
I'm nervous.
The response to that is, well, just enjoy it now. It's going to get older. Or it's going to be more of like or she'll criticize herself when I say that.
To which Wes says,
I'll
give you a hint, dude.
3 phrases.
What's happening there?
Oh, babe, what just happened for you? What am I missing? Because you're missing it. Will you fill in the blank, Tera? What happens for you in that moment?
When he says that to me?
Mm-hmm.
Tera, I think you are absolutely beautiful. I love the way you do your hair.
Well, so the one that I know, like whenever you talk about my body, I do feel joy. I don't process that joy, but I do feel joy when you say that. Mm-hmm. And then I also feel fear.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the fear?
That
you don't verbally process the joy.
No, I just said that. I do not respond that way. I do respond more of the like, well, you're going to get,
You say you'll get tired of it one day.
You'll get tired of it. Or
is that your fear?
The fear, yeah. Or shame in my body. I have a lot of shame in my body.
Right. So it's probably joy, fear, shame, and fear of shame. Fear of future shame. I'm conjecturing here, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Just tell the dude that next time.
Yeah.
Seriously, in that moment. Just go, I feel some joy when you say that. It feels good, but I also get hit with a lot of fear. And he goes, ooh, what's happening with fear? Just because I'm not going to look like this when I'm 50 and 60. And by definition, I don't care who Jennifer Aniston is. You're not going to look. She doesn't really look like Jennifer Aniston, by the way. And sorry, Jennifer, if you're listening.
You're beautiful.
I'm not going to get sued here. But just tell him in the moment what happens.
Yeah.
For you.
And that is interesting because on previous podcasts, I think one that we've just put out in the last few weeks, I talked about that I do have a hard time vocalizing my joy. And so I am much quicker to vocalize the fear, vocalize the shame, but I do feel joy in that moment. So this is a good aha moment for me that, I do feel joy in that moment and I need to vocalize that better.
Well, and typically, rather than just saying, oh, dang girl, you look sexy in that, I could say, I have so much joy in this. And what it does is it's just like a spark. The sparks that for you to follow with your emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. This is really good. I know we have to move into our core emotion wheel that we'll do. Because you told me you only will give us 45 minutes and we're at 44:17 right now.
Do a really fast.
I'll give you all the time that you want, Tera Wages.
But I always like to wrap up what
you didn't follow my energy.
I'm so sorry. I did not even hear what you said.
That was a little sexual banter right there, Wesley.
Thanks, Phyllis.
I'm so sorry. Essentially, with sexual banter, the things that I am taking away from this episode. One, Phyllis, I loved how you even described sexual banter. I think often we think of sexual banter as this being like graphic, intense conversation where we're like describing each other's body parts or something. And if you are at that level, yes. Cheers to you. Be careful what numbers you're sending it to.
Well said.
But also, sexual banter does not have to be the super intense. It can be what you feel comfortable with, and you can ramp up at your comfort level. And then also by creating it as a lifestyle, as this ongoing conversation, it can create freedom for it to be an ongoing conversation without this automatic expectation. Every single day, if you say something sexually, there's going to be an expectation put on you. So those are the two things that I really am taking away. And that when our husband or our partner is saying something sexual banter, something positive about us, to process that joy too. That's something else that is personal for me, but maybe someone else connects with that as well. Because I know as women, we do tend to criticize ourselves when someone compliments us. And so to both hold space for the joy of the compliment and whatever else is firing in your body as well, those can live side by side.
Yeah.
So now we are going to go into our core emotion wheel. And this is the 4-minute tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have created. That's a huge foundational component of the connection codes. Yeah. And this wheel is something that teaches you. We've heard Dr. Glenn mention a few times, well, what was that core emotion? You lead with your core emotion. This wheel teaches you how to identify those emotions that are happening in your body. So then I can say, oh, I'm feeling fear and shame and joy in that moment because I've been using this wheel regularly. And it also allows us the opportunity to connect with our partner and understand what's happening for each other. So are we doing the wheel today? Phyllis, you'd said that a minute ago. Okay, Wes, do you want to go first or you me too?
No, I don't want to go first.
Okay, I don't mind.
Well, you asked me exactly 47 minutes ago to do the podcast.
Okay,
so.
no, I'm ready. Are we doing it about sex or anything?
Sure.
Where's your heart? Okay.
I'm game with whatever.
Shame. I have shame in my body, and then I have shame that I have shame in my body. Yeah. It's so much fun. Yeah. I feel guilt. I feel guilt that we did not have sex last night. Yeah, I never want to say no to you, and so I feel guilt about that. I feel fear. I feel fear because we've reached a new stage in parenthood where our kids are not going to bed. They're staying up later, and we've recently been walked in on by a child, which was a great time. Don't recommend. And so, I have fear that now our sex dates, our sex time is shifting, and that's creating difficulty in us finding time for sex in a way that we hadn't experienced. So fear in that. Lonely. I feel lonely I feel lonely because sex is awkward for me and I'm the only one in our relationship that it feels awkward for. So that's just lonely. That you don't understand the awkwardness that I'm experiencing. I feel sad that I have to experience all of these other emotions sexually because that's what was taught to me or projected onto me by both media and the church and society. And I just feel sadness that there's now so much shame in our sex life. I feel hurt. I feel hurt by that too. I don't have necessarily a specific sexual hurt other than, probably just that society has done so much damage. Anger. I think that I feel anger that previously, this isn't a recent anger, that when I've tried to have sexual banter, I'm trying to take these lessons and apply them, and then you think that it's leading to something and then it's not, and then you're hurt, and then now I'm angry because I'm trying and I just don't feel like my efforts are doing the right thing. And I feel joy because we are leaps and bounds, amazingly night and day different in our sex life now compared to where we were 3 years ago. And it is just an absolutely incredible experience and connection that we both get to have.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I typically start with anger, but I feel anger that I asked last night to have sex, and you said just immediately no.
That.
I didn't process that. Now I understand. I should have processed my emotion first. That could have helped the situation. I feel shame that I'm just too much. I have a horny part of my mind or whatever. And earlier you said you didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just shame that we're not the same in that.
Yeah.
I fear guilt because recently I've denied you twice. Yeah. I think in the last year, but feel guilt in that, and but also joy too. Yeah. So, I feel fear that, the kids are young right now. It's a lot, and just it's going to take us a while to find our perfect, or I feel fear that we're not going to have that emotional. What did you say earlier, Glenn? I know I'm interrupting my own will, but experimental.
Oh, experimental sex.
Yeah, just experimental sex. Nights. Like I feel fear that we're just not going to have time or space for that. I feel loneliness of just in our own sexual relationship. Sometimes, yes, we have sex, but just lonely, and I want more. And also I feel sad in that too, because sad just telling you that because you do such a great job. You know what I mean? You're present and active, and like you don't deny me, but why do I sometimes want more than that? So I feel hurt in myself that I didn't, that I'm sometimes not leading with my emotion, and feel hurt that like, dude, you have these tools, you got to use them, Wow. And feel joy that the kids are in school now, so our sex dates, our sex time doesn't have to be at night. So, wow. Wink, wink. When the hills are gone, we'll
seeing this revelation take place before my eyes. That just hit you right now, didn't it?
Man, absolutely.
And we did that for years. We homeschooled, and we had a homeschool co-op, and the kids would be there, and we would rendezvous at our house.
We did that for a season.
Yeah. I think years, is that fair?
I don't think it was that long, actually. Yeah, because it was difficult for me to leave my responsibilities and make that happen. Yeah. It was a much shorter. That's what was hard for me, is that because it was really like this 2-hour window or so, and that was more challenging. So I don't think it was for long, but we did have a season where on a Wednesday night we would send the kids to Bible class.
Once our oldest started driving. We're like, take these kids and get out of here.
And go to dinner first at Wendy's or McDonald's, so that time would be even longer. And then after church, go for ice cream.
And like literally people would ask, they'd say, where are your parents? And our kids would go, they're having a sex date. That was always the end of the conversation.
Okay.
Like then people never pursued it.
Goals.
Okay.
We're not asking any more
hilarious.
questions.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. If you're listening and you're back from those days, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yes. I mean, we do have like a travel trailer that we could pull into the church parking lot, drop the kids off.
My gosh, Wesley. Okay. Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today, and I hope that you've connected with either one of our stories, whatever stage of life that you are in, that you can identify with, like, oh, I've been in that season, or I'm currently in that season, because there is the difficulty of having young kids at home, and then the dreams of having this like experimental sex time. And I have sadness when you say it's that you're not going to get to have it, because I'm like, dude, we just have a 4-year-old. Like, give us time. We have plenty of time. But I get the fear. And so I'm just so grateful for our listeners. We always have such great feedback when y'all write us in and share. And if you have any questions, please reach out and connect with us. And if you're like, okay, we're not even close to this. We are struggling sexually. We are struggling with emotions. Like, we need more. The best place to start, especially if you're wanting to dive into your sexual relationship, is with our Foundations and Late Night bundle, because you can get both classes together at a discount, and using the coupon code podcast, or the discount code podcast, you can get an extra 20% off of those 2 courses. And that has changed everything for Wes and I. And with that, when you enroll, you also get access to our bi-monthly check-ins, where you get to come on and ask questions to Dr. Glenn and Phyllis yourself and engage and talk about these topics in a much, much deeper way. So that link is in our show notes.
Night and day. I just want to say earlier, when I say like I have the tools, but sometimes just need the refresher to use them, like those are the tools that
changed everything.
We went through Foundations and it was just awesome night and day.
And then Late Night.
Oh, of course.
Wes has been asking. He's like, I just wish we could have COVID again. I'm like, don't even say it. It's not even funny. Because we went through Late Night during July of 2020. And he's like, I just want to be back there so bad.
100%.
So thank you for listening. We do all of this because...
Yes, you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.